Good morning, everybody. This is Douglas coming from Cape Town, and today we're talking to Nils in Sweden. Good morning, Nils.
Good morning.
How long have you been in this world of activation?
A bit over 2.5 years now. Yeah, I would say so. In the start of 2018, I started. And it's been quite a journey.
So tell us about the journey, because I know the journey, and it's to me it's a very important one, very inspiring. But it really started, is from what I remember, is you watching a clip online.
Yeah. Well, it started one night with a Instagram clip of a glute activation. Before and after, someone were testing a glute strength, rubbed the back and behind the ear, and the glute got stronger, and I was like, ooh, this is cool. So I kept looking, found some videos from the old days on YouTube where you were showing stuff in Australia, sounded crazy. Forearm pain has something to do with the psoas. Didn't understand shit. Kept looking, just thought it was cool. Eventually got this from the web with the course, with online course. It was the only thing available back then.
Yeah.
Basically got obsessed then and there. So I started looking, watching the clip over and over. I was already, I was in powerlifting, and I had a lot of friends, and every powerlifter is in pain. So I was doing like trigger points and myofascial release stuff. I got a table on my powerlifting friends, pretty much, and I said, let's try this. So I started trying stuff out. Had no idea what I did. I just pressed way too hard, made them scream. Trying to
They're
attack.
powerlifters. Get over it. They like their pain. If it didn't hurt, they wouldn't have been interested.
Indeed. Yeah, I was still a lot in much confusion, but I kept going. Eventually found the Facebook group where I saw a bunch of amazing stories. Got in touch with a few people like Bev, for example.
Yeah.
Eventually, she told me to get a session, so I asked the group, is there anyone in doing this? And there were none. So I got recommended to go to Copenhagen in Denmark, which is really close from here, to meet Kristoffer.
Yeah.
And that was, that's where the minds blew out. I was a zero, and I left not being a zero, which was quite a change for me. Along with my pains, aches and pains and injuries, also my mental health at the time.
Yeah.
Just mind blowing. So that was the start. He after our second session, he told me that you were coming to Copenhagen, and I should do the course. So I did, and that was the first time meeting you and Bev, and that's where journey really started. Say, my first level 1.
Yeah, there was a powerful bit of learning. The thing that always stood out for me was that there was like quite a there was a history with all the aches and pains, and as you said, there was a bit of the mental health side, and the reason why that's important now is just what's going on in the world. That we see a lot of people are really struggling, and for them to understand that when you start to engage the body in a different way, the mind starts to open up and see different possibilities. So what I remember was, and you correct me if I've got any of this wrong, but it was something like 4 years of cognitive behavioral therapy, and nothing. And then you go and watch some YouTube clips, rub some points, having no idea. You go back to the next session and your cognitive behavioral therapist goes, whoa, you look alive. What's going on? And we
Yeah,
know it had nothing to do with the cognitive behavioral therapy. It had to do with you tapping back
yeah,
into yourself.
exactly. I started breathing. I'd been holding my breath for years, all those years, and I think the word she used was that I expressed genuine happiness the first time in oral treatment, which she was pretty amazed of.
That's so cool. And I think, I think that that big part is that all that happened is when rubbing a few points, the right points for your body, so it creates the response. Because if they weren't the right points, they're not going to do anything for you. But then your
Yeah,
system
yeah,
just starts to recognize where it's at and starts to shift and change and actually go, I don't like this place, holding my breath, being overwhelmed, being just disconnected and in pain, and just and and I think that's what we're always trying to say to people is you have no idea how much power lies inside you. It's just waiting for you to shift your focus back in there to find it. And kind of it's awakening that sleeping giant. And when you wake that giant up, that giant is you. It's not like the fee fi fo fum scary guy in the sky who's coming to get you. You are the giant. And
yeah,
it's if one actually looked and you go, hey, I rubbed this and I rubbed that, how could that do that? And like sometimes we get too caught up in well, what does that mean? Why did it work? And I think more important, especially these days, is did it work, yes or no? And that's
yeah,
actually that too often we getting caught up in theories and explanations, and we actually need to take that step back and say, but did it work, yes or no? And you know it's that's why it's a privilege watching you and your journey, because the other thing that it takes is for you to bring yourself and for you to bring your vulnerability and all your scariness. And I remember on that level one, you already had a story with the online stuff, and then going and seeing Kristoffer, and but you shared it, and you shared it openly with the group, and you shared with me, and it's an amazing thing of that then allows people to meet you where you're at, and then it makes where you go to next easier to get to, actually, even if it's hard as hell. But
yeah,
it also takes your
definitely.
bravery and courage, which is where the cool part comes.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the coolest part about BeActivated for me is that we're not adding anything. You are already enough. The strength is already in you. Like you said, you just need to awake that giant within you. We're just removing what's not you to let there be more you, and more of you is enough. So that was pretty cool. Just not weeks of trying to build something up. Just remove what's not you, and you'll find that you're enough.
That gives me goosebumps, because that yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Is that I think we spend so much of our lives trying to get to somewhere else, because then I will be happy, then I will blah blah blah, all these different things. But it is, I think Wayne Dyer used to had a lot of things where I'm sure it was him, but it was that idea of imagine that right here, right now, everything inside you is perfect. There is nothing that needs to heal. There is nothing that needs to be fixed. And if you could just recognize that, all this discomfort and all this pain of searching and pain of longing and not belonging, and you'd realize that none of it has to be there, because everything that you need is here, and you're already perfect.
Indeed, you just got to see it.
Yeah, so it's kind of like we've got to dust off all of those things that have got in the way of you even being able to see and find yourself. And it's like that coming through thick mist. When you're driving in thick mist, you can't see anything. You don't know what's in front of you.
Mhm.
And so when that clears, and it's like, oh, whoa, well, that's us. We get the joy of watching people do that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So there was one, I was actually telling Amy last night when we were chatting about that I was doing the interview with you this morning. And I was saying the the thing I remember was having you on the table for the lats.
Hmm. I'll never
And
forget.
just, you were a big strong guy to start with, but once we had done the posterior stuff, the 1 2 3 on the back, and just in case someone's going, what's the 1 2 3 on the back, because isn't there a 1 2 3 movement pattern? Yes, there are both, but we like to keep things simple, so we call it the 1 for fun, 2 to unglue, and the 3 to free. And it sounds like a bit of fun, but it can be pretty damn brutal. But if it's what your system needs, it's what your system needs. And I just remember you standing up and almost like a tree, just expanding, just a tree that's been here for the last 6 years suddenly went no. And it was just this amazing rise of you.
Yeah, it was profound, to say the least. Um, I remember when I stood up, I it felt like I could watch everyone in the room in the eyes at the same time. I've never felt more brave in my life, I think. Um, yeah, it was crazy. And I remember I was kind of shocked at the same time because we were doing the stuff. What do you feel? And I was shocked. It was almost overwhelming. And you asked me to go to the toilet and look at myself in the mirror, and it was so weird. It was another person I was seeing in the mirror for the first time in so long. It was,
And that's bizarre, isn't it? Like
yeah,
I always think if someone's listening to this and they don't know this work, they'd be thinking, what are you talking about? Well, sometimes when somebody gets off the table, we can see these dramatic changes and you're feeling all this stuff. And you can have everyone in the room going, wow, you're this, you're that, you're that. But it does kind of help to look in the mirror and see you, and because you know what you look like.
yeah,
And and then to come back going, what? Who, and then it's like, how the hell is that possible? Well, again, does it matter more than this is what just happened? your
yeah,
body your body let go of this collapsing and said, it's time to expand some more. I'm going to grow. and
yeah.
and almost like the analogy of the tree, I actually like that picture. It was rooted in, we had long done zone 1 and gone down the leg, so your roots were strong and powerful for this to rise up and grow.
Hmm.
you know and and actually, what's interesting, what you say about, you can almost see everybody's eyes all at the same time. So what happens when the body closes and collapses is we get shoop, and this is our survival: fight, flight, freeze. All you can see is this. And right now, there's so many people I'm seeing in the world that are, their little place they can see through is so small. So anything can disrupt you. Everything is a threat, because anything outside of this little narrow thing that you focused on is scary, is overwhelming. And the thing is that if you and your system opens and you can see all around you, there's less to fear because you can see it. It's
Definitely.
when you can't see it, it's scary. That's why people get scared in the dark, because you can't see. Everything's in your imagination. But guess what? The lights can be on, and your physiology is as though there's this. You only have a tiny little pencil torch, so you only get, that's all you can see. So of course everything else becomes scary.
Hmm. Yeah, it was. Yeah, profound is the best word I could think of because it was so weird. Um, I remember also that um, for the ones that don't know, that the lat sheath is in the arm, in the biceps, and the brachioradialis. My arms felt so long, I couldn't believe it. Like, it's because you don't know what you don't know. I had no idea my arms were short, right? So when the tree grew, my
You didn't
forearm
know
got
that
so.
you were born a T-Rex.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember I had to run and put my jacket on to make sure the sleeves still fit. It felt like it would stop right here. Uh, it was so weird. And the amount I could feel under my thumb after that for the rest of the course, and
now that's a huge thing. That's a very important thing, which is why it's so important that our therapists actually do this work on themselves, have it done. Why? Because the more connected you are into your body, the more you can feel, the more effective you are when working with somebody else. If you know, because there's always this assumption that what I feel and what you feel is the same, and that's not true. It's through the filter of all of how our physiology is closed down. And if feeling through my fingers and thumb is not a priority in the body because it's got so many other things to do, of course it's not going to give you feel. You know, and if you add on an overwhelm or a depression or an exhaustion or there's just less signaling going through. You know, I wrote the email that'll go out tomorrow. I wrote that yesterday, and the references around the central governor fatigue model, and that is such an important thing, because it's like in the history of it is 1923, a guy called Hill had two models to explain fatigue, and the one was one that he could measure, you know, the lactic acid buildup, the increase in the so decreased oxygen, increased carbon dioxide, increased lactic acid, something else. I'm really good at this stuff. But what was interesting is he had a second theory that he called the governor theory. And he said, I believe in this one, but I don't know how to prove it. And us liking the mechanism of the other one went, oh, well, you can prove that one and we can measure that one. So let's take that one. And the problem is a whole lot of physiology was built upon that fatigue theory, which turns out isn't entirely accurate, because actually those indicators are just indicators, but the brain is still choosing how we respond. And so the brain is constantly looking at, how do I use my energy effectively so that, you know, it's like, if I have to escape the big hungry lion and it lets me use up all of my energy in 30 seconds, well, lions will very quickly learn, we're just going to run this human for 30 seconds and they're just going to drop dead. And the brain would, you know, so anyone who did that, natural selection said, you're not going to survive. But the governing system sat there and went, whoa, we need to get away from the lion. But what if the lion comes back? What if there are two lions? What about this? What about that? So it was constantly rationing out the energy to our system. And the thing about it was, I always used to talk about it, you know, good information in is good information out. So automatically when we start to open up the neural system, open up the body into this expanded state, there's better information coming into the brain, makes better choices. So, because what's so interesting about the central governor fatigue theory, which was then in what would have been early 2000s, Professor Tim Noakes and a whole research team in South Africa. Tim Noakes, amazing man, challenged the theory and reintroduce the central governor fatigue theory, except now science could back it up. And so it really was, the brain is actually controlling fatigue. But when you extend it through, this is where it gets interesting. Their final conclusion on one of their papers was that fatigue is an emotional response triggered in the brain. And then you look at the world and you go, what's the catchphrase right now? Corona fatigue. So what is that? Well, if I've got a whole series of reference points, which is why we're always doing our testing, I know where I am. But the world right now is constantly uncertain. There are less and less reference points and parameters. So our governing system actually has to go, we have no friggin' idea what's coming next. We don't know what's happening in the next 10 minutes. We don't know what's happening tomorrow. We don't know what's happening in a week, a month, definitely not a year. Let's just survive it. You know, and I've said it, when people go, how are things? And you go, well, I'm watching people losing their businesses, and so when we chat, we talk about, so when this is done, what you have to do is you have to survive through to that point, but nobody knows what that point is. And so the system numbs out, disconnects, goes into a depression, goes into crazy places, because there are no reference points, there are no places to find. It's I'd like to get Glyn onto one of these conversations, because he's got the most amazing reference points. So Glyn assists us in Denmark, and long before the COVID and all of this, he started wood turning and started making mice. And they're awesome, and people look at them and you can't help smile and feel joy just looking at these mice. But it also it was a reference point. It was a place where he could go, and he taught Kristoffer and I how he does it and showed us, and we could literally see as he was turning his wood and sharing this, almost that same process that you described with the lats. He was almost expanding into himself because he had a reference point that happened to be wood turning.
Yeah.
And it's people just don't seem to have those at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen this year a few times before they locked down Copenhagen again. He's been showing me the wood turning stuff.
It's awesome, hey? I'm actually just going to close this window. My next door neighbor's dog has got a really big, loud bark.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, no, it's amazing stuff. And the thing is, it doesn't matter what you do, because I know another story about you. Actually, no, I want to jump back to your lats, because there's something else that also, when your arms are super long and your lats are super expanded, how does it change your wanting to hug people and what it feels like to hug people?
Yeah, it changed a lot. I hugged Bev straight after, and it was a great hug, to say the least.
She'll be happy to hear that.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I can say to anyone watching, it could affect your elbow pain, to say the least. I had chronic elbow pain for I don't know how long, and with those long forearms, that pain was not there anymore.
Yeah, well, I think that's it. That the pain is there for a reason, and the reason has nothing to do with the elbow. So if we go and we hammer the elbow and do a whole lot of things to the elbow, well, we're not going to have any effect, because it was never the elbow in the first place. The elbow was the lifeguard diving in to try and save the drowning swimmer, and the drowning swimmer took the lifesaver down with him. I just say that because we have that happen here. And I always say that if you've got someone drowning and you dive in with them, then all you have is two drowning people. There's some crazy life-saving things that they have to do. Sometimes they have to literally knock out the person in panic so they can save their lives.
Yeah.
And imagine, so you were saying before, it's kind of, he did stuff to my rib cage that was for my lats, but it released my long-headed biceps and brachioradialis, and actually therefore my elbow could go free and my arms could go long, and my pain didn't have to be there anymore, because all my body had been doing was saying, dude, Nils, please, can we, this is not our job, can you also please stop lifting heavy weights with us not doing our job? We're doing a one-armed handstand here for you, buddy, and now you want to load up an extra 50 kilograms on us. Please stop it. So it's just communicating. It's just saying, and nobody ever taught us that the body's talking to us. It's trying to say, this is good, this is bad, and we were never taught it.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good explanation of it. My elbows were drowned.
So behind you, there is a
Hmm.
guitar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what happens to guitar playing when your fingers can feel more, your hands can move more freely, your arms are longer? How does that impact guitar?
Quite a bit, I would say. But even more different would be the confidence and the courage you get from it all. To that had made a bigger impact. Uh, Although I could play the guitar without getting bicep pain and stuff like that for longer periods of time. But I would say that your confidence in it would have the biggest impact on your playing.
Nice.
And I have a story about that as well, with me playing the guitar and singing for around 7 years, I think it was,
Yeah.
just for me and my cats. They were the only one hearing me sing and play in my room alone. And after the first level one, I was my dad had his 70th birthday party. With they are all my family are all musicians, and there was a big stage, and there were like, I think it was around 70 people there. And he asked me as a birthday to go and perform, sing, and play his favorite song. It was a Swedish song. Um, and I remember I was at first freaking out, but I thought I'm gonna do this. So I was practicing at home. I was doing my activation, but at the day of the party, nerves kicked in. Like it was one of my biggest fear to do this. And I remember going to the bathroom 10 minutes before it was my time to go up on stage, and I did my song activation, did some breathing, and then I kept my ninja butt squeeze for those 10 minutes, and I just went up and did it. And it was quite a success. And it was a big moment in my life to be able to feel that and on the other side of it.
Sure.
So even
And
more
also,
than long
what an
finger.
incredible gift for your father.
Yeah, he enjoyed it, and my family and relatives had no idea I could play the guitar and sing. So it was quite a shock to all of them as well. Um, and another big thing about that was in BeActivated, we talk about what inspires us, to make us stronger, to make us confident, to expand. What's in the mind is in the body, right? So I was using moments from level one as a reference point or a point of focus
Yeah.
when I needed that inspiration, courage, and confidence. Uh, and after that performance, that has been the first moment in my life that I could think of get stronger. So that was pretty amazing to have that as my new point of focus when I needed to be strong. Something with myself was, yeah, that was quite amazing. It was the first thing I could use to get stronger with my point of focus.
So just explain that. I lost a little bit of sound on almost exactly when you said this is what my point of focus would be. Just
Okay,
just
so
say that
so
again,
so
so that because it's very important that what I'm hearing, and I'm realizing, just it's, we talk about point of focus, but you're actually looking for that thing or there are few things that when you shift your focus there, you literally feel your courage rise, your body grow. And that sounds like that's what you've done. You found the one
mhm.
that you can, it's almost quick on the draw. Like imagine two cowboys, and who can pull out the inspiration quicker. If you know exactly what your inspiration is, you're going to win that gunfight. Whereas
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you don't, sorry, my inspiration is going to squash you.
yeah. I would do that duel.
Sweet. So just
Yeah.
because of the sound, what, just tell us again, what was that one thing?
So during the performance, I used the one thing, it would probably, I was thinking about Bev and our Activate Together level 1 course. But after that moment, I could use my performance as a point of focus
Gotcha.
to be inspired. And that was big for me, to use something about me to get me stronger.
Isn't that powerful? The thing that inspires
Yeah.
you is you.
Yeah.
You know, that's huge, because suddenly if you look at that circle, it's, I don't have to go anywhere even to find my inspiration, because my inspiration is something that I've already done. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, because that's a lot harder for the outside world to hack. When your inspiration is very far outside of yourself, it's still important. If you don't have one inside you, have the others. You've got to have some kind of thing that inspires you and drives you. But the closer your inspiration resides inside you, the less hackable you are, which means you're more resilient in the world, no matter what's coming. That's huge. That's huge. There's that really, I've never thought of it that way, as a, and how important that can be, that, yeah, that you can actually look in the mirror and go, dude, you're awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was easy to just go back to the stage where I faced those fears, and sure as hell made me stronger if we could test it physically. And I definitely got stronger from thinking about that, or having that as my focus. So yeah, it's yeah, it feels like I have so many stories about this. It's been so changing for me.
But for me, watching you, and I know that anyone who's done workshops that you've been on will just be quite amazed just watching you now. You know, even the ease in your communication, and your just ease in yourself from the last time I saw you, again, is just layers and layers further. It's you know, because you, and I think this is what people need to understand. It's like, this work can do magic, but the idea is that sometimes you've got to get through one thing, take some ownership of it, and then you build on the next. You don't try and win. This isn't a sprint. You know, your life is not a sprint. Otherwise, if it is a sprint, it'll be over really quickly. It's a good analogy. But if you understand that it's a series of, it's a survival course, but it's that challenges you, and it asks you to expand and grow, and each time you, you know, years ago, when I like learning all weird and wacky things. So one of my weird qualifications is I'm a Microsoft certified systems engineer, just out of interest. He says, sitting on a Mac. And when you did the exams, they were predictive. So when you answered a question, if you got it right, they made the next question more difficult. And if you got it wrong, they made it a bit easier to see. And so my final exam, which was TCP/IP, Internet Protocol, just I'm trying to dazzle people with words that's not that clever. It was a 2-hour exam, and I finished in 15 minutes. And when I walked out, like, the people were like, whoa, it must have gone bad. I said, no, I think it went quite good. After 10 questions, it booted me out. They went, it's not a 10-question exam. And I got like really good marks, like 90 something. That's because it just got harder and harder and harder. But because I was meeting it, it said, awesome, done, let's go harder, let's go harder. And eventually, when I kind of obviously messed up the last little bit, then that was just the final bits. But that's life. It's like, so some people, your starting point was the most basic, most important thing. Get your breathing right. And suddenly your whole perspective changes, and your body rediscovers that happiness is allowed to be inside me. Whereas somebody else might start breathing, and because of that, they sleep better at night. Or somebody else finds that they're breathing, and this is a particular person I'm thinking about. His son when this young man taught his son to breathe, his eczema that over like the summer months would cover 95% of his body was only 5% because of the breathing. And people might go, well, what has the skin got to do with it? Well, actually, if we go back down to what's it? Ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm, which is histology and cell growth and function. Well, your skin and your lungs are part of the same system. So why, if your breathing didn't come right, wouldn't it influence and impact your skin too?
Mm-hmm.
It just becomes oh wow, there's that connection too, and there's that connection too, and a system in a survival state doesn't care about eczema, whereas a system that's in a healing, recovering, performance, wanting to integrate says, oh well, we don't need that. And you kind of go, wow, okay, there's all of these things. Where are we going to meet our clients at? And then we can journey with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed.
So in my world, like I love this because this is you and I journeying. That's what this is, and that's what's so important in all of this. And you know, it's I definitely say this a lot more now than before, but like the stories that are being shared on 3,000 stories, they're inspiring for me too. It's very easy to kind of just batten down the hatches. Heck, I can go surfing every day and just go on a holiday. And because I like the interactions, I really like the hands-on, and I miss that a lot. And I'm finding that the stories and the sharing is the stuff that also kind of keeps me connected with what's important. So that's why even what we're doing here is a big thing and very important.
Yeah, and I think what you've been starting to do lately with these interviews and the extra footage you're putting up, it keeps a lot. I know it keeps my story going, and others. I'm sure others as well. Like, even though I haven't seen you in over a year now, because of all this, we're learning so much new. And we're getting new aha moments all the time. I had one just a few days ago from your interview with Tim, I think it was.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about something and holding the point at the same time, and something clicked. Like better decisions, questions. The stories keep going, and I think that calms me a bit. That we're never ready, right? Like there's always another layer. We don't have to rush to it, but if we were ready, that would be pretty boring, right? If we were at the bottom of the staircase, I am sure I will always get another layer.
Well, I think that's the thing, that anytime I find something that offers me the next layer, like I'm like a little kid in a candy store, because
Yeah.
it's that's the stuff that I don't want to be there yet. I'm not the kid rushing to be there. I'm the kid who goes, can we stay a little longer here? I'm enjoying playing in this. And you know, the thing is that we always joke, and like when someone says, oh, what about that? Oh yeah, that's on level 97. What? There's 97 levels? Well, yes, they're actually more than that. But the thing is that and until we're ready to go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we don't even go to 97. And
Mm.
it's kind of because otherwise what we do is we rush too fast, we don't integrate, we create confusion in our system. And it's kind of like Monopoly. You know, you land on a thing, go back to start, do not collect $200 or you know, whatever. It's kind of the if you and I find it often, it's like I'm pushing too hard. I'm not trying to do too many things because I feel so good that I can do it, but I know that I'm on that edge. And it's kind of you know, Dougal in the Big Wave Surfer said, you know, in his thing, he was always the kid that wanted to find the highest place, and so he wasn't looking for the fancy backflips. I was doing the fancy backflips, but I was always looking for the edge. So I had a combo. I didn't always go to the highest, but I was looking for, okay, how far can we push this? What's the next level? And I was always that. And so it's always that decision. You know, I've broken so many surfboards because it was time to come in. And then it's just one more wave, just one more, just let's push a little bit more. And
Yeah.
so we can drop all the way back to the beginning, and then you build your way up. And the thing is, if you know that you can build yourself back up, falling flat in your face isn't a big deal. But if you've got to a point in your life and you have no idea how you got there, and now I, like, in my mind, this part of the conversation is, imagine we've got a successful athlete, and they're really good at what they do. They've worked really hard, but they actually also know they have no freaking idea how they got there. So they haven't got a knowledge that builds a resilience. So there's always a fear, which means you have these really extreme routines that you have to have because you're afraid that if anything different happens, it might all fall apart, which means they're the easiest to hack and they're the easiest to break down. And so all you need is someone who's not that, who when they get knocked down, smiles and gets back up, you know. And yeah, I think my mind's mumbling off in 1,000 directions with that. It's a picture of getting knocked down. Falling down is never the problem. It's knowing you can get up and knowing wherever you were before, you can get back there. And if you know that, that means you will be willing to go from, let's say, 5 to a 6. Because if you know that if you in that reaching, if in that growing, you fall flat and end up back as your 2, you know you can get back to a 5 and you can start it again. But if you go 4, okay, I'm just going to hold on to this. I'm just going to protect this. You know, your world is gradually going to get smaller, and you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and you're a 3. You know, and it's like, whoa, how did that happen? I better hold on even tighter. And it's a whole, and so there's how easily people, we move into these expanding states or these collapsing states. And you know, when we have people like you who sit and share, and how can you not want to expand? You know, how can you not, just hearing what someone like you has done, not feel almost the fear of the interviews where people have messaged me and said, that was so weird. I was watching that and I swear I felt like I had a full activation just watching the interview. And I'm like, yes, then we're winning.
Definitely. I recently bought a level 1 course, online course, from Dublin.
Yes.
And 10 minutes in, I was fully activated from watching it. So it's just inspiration, right? And
it's just because it feeds the system, and it, you know, I think that's what's so amazing when people go through those programs, because when you're in it, like if you're even in Dublin on that day, there's so much going on, and you can go and take one of those clips and you can watch it. Let's say it's a 5-minute clip and you watch it 10 times. You can get 10 different pieces of learning from it. Easy peasy.
Definitely. I remember my last level 1 in Copenhagen last year, November. You did zone 1, and when you did the glutes on a guy on the table, I felt my glutes just pop up, and this was weird. So the next morning, I told you at the coffee station, this is so weird, Douglas. My glutes activated when you were activating his glutes. You said, weird, but not anyone, because they will think you're crazy.
There's certain things you shouldn't share, you know.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was walking home with my new glutes, so and
but you see,
at that time,
just think about how often when someone on the table takes their first breath, and you can feel everyone in the room is journeying with them. That's why movies work, because you feel and you connect to the story and you feel the emotions, and so you have that journey. When people are sharing and doing their work, that's what happens. So just by being in that space, and that's part of the reason why I'm pretty dogmatic about how that space works. You know, we have to be respectful. We have to have a set of rules, because it has to be safe for everybody in the room, so that people can bring their vulnerability and bring whatever it is, so that we can all learn. And then when we get that right, and so that's about creating that space. And so why that's important is, when you're in a place like you are right now, with an ease and a flow, but yet at the same time a power and a strength and a courage, how different is it when you're working with your friends and with your clients to help them, to create spaces for them, just because you're in a better place?
It's such a massive difference. The thing about the more you can feel, you can shift on, and the higher up on the scale or the lower down in the staircase, the more you feel, the more you can take someone down with you. The opposite side of the lifeguard.
Absolutely. But you know, but that thing is that if you are well connected to yourself, you in that journeying down the staircase, you always Nils. We never want to get lost in somebody else's story. And so you stay as the reference point, and then heck, you can go deep down into the caves and it's all good. And that's what's so good. So when you know where you are and you can feel it, well, there you are, a reference point. It's not some like little mental game going, hello, just making sure I'm still here. But it is amazing how often people, when they're working with clients, and this is on like any profession, they get so immersed in the other person's process that they lose sight of themselves. And that doesn't help us, because they need a reference point. That's what they need. And you're providing that through your touch, through your conversation, through your ability to hold the spaces. And so, as you say, when you can feel, when you know where you are, it's easier to hold those spaces. And then that expanding is also the possibility of what happens in the work, which is friggin' exciting.
Definitely. And I think even that, if you fall back on your two, to be aware of where you are with the reference point, just having the trust to know that you can get back to 5 or 6 almost brings you up to 3, having the trust of it. So when I fall flat on my face, I'm not worried anymore. I know I'll be there. I'll get back there. I might always hit the right thing immediately, but I'll get there. So, and the trust part of it helps me, because if I dress up and overthink it, I'm stuck at that level too. So
that's an important thing. And you know, the trusting, there are two components to the trusting. The one is trusting this, but you have to, you know, so when you can trust you and your ability, then exactly, if it's not working out, you don't sit there going, oh my goodness, that's terrible. You go, cool, all right, what are we going to do about that? So there's not a shutting down when things aren't working out. But also, and this is why the framework of the BeActivated process is that you've got a framework that you can, because it's repeatable over and over and over, you also can learn to trust the framework, so that the framework allows you a place to then express throughout that framework. And so, you know, so if you can, you know, trust the framework and trust yourself, well, geez, then we have like this creative symphony going on. It's quite something.
Yeah, I think when you teach us that if something doesn't shift or doesn't change, it just simply means that you haven't found what the body needs. And if you can rest in that, that's a major trust in that. For at least for me, if I don't get a change with doing something, I'm upset, I just think, oh, this is not what I need. When I found what I need, even if that's the angle of Louis, when that clip came out, woof, I needed that. And it was massive. You can always trust and rest in, if you don't change, you haven't found what you need.
And that angle of Louis was all about really slowing down and creating a long sustained reference point so that the body had no choice but to be there.
Yeah.
You know, and
that's all
and the thing is, it's like it's not like I sit and go, ooh, what else weird and wacky can I share? It's kind of, it's here's the philosophy, here's the framework. How within that do we create something that reaches in and influences, impacts more easily? And you know, that angle of Louis, we had someone with Parkinson's, with dyskinesia, who never ever stopped. And initially the Teletubby point stopped him. Amazing. Like just poof. So, and imagine like for 10 years, you actually couldn't drink a glass of red wine properly because you couldn't hold your wine. Now he can. So that was the first reference point, but the angle of Louis was the next one. And when I took my hands off, he lay still for half an hour, which he never did. He, even in bed, couldn't lie still. He just lay there. We just left him. And you go, wow, what if his system is just looking for a clear reference point, and without it, it doesn't know what to do. So it's scurrying around. And I'm saying this as a what if, not this is what's happening, because we don't know. But what we do know is that when we bring stuff in like that, the body does amazing things. And it's when you find the right thing, the body responds immediately. So you could do the same technique to 100 people, and maybe 60 are going, oh my goodness, that was incredible, that's life-changing. 30 go, yeah, I feel different, and 10 will go, are you like selling snake oil or something? Because that did nothing. It just means it wasn't their point. But you could take it personally, and you can go, no, it is. I'll be better next time. Or you can go, hey, cool. It's maybe just not your point.
Yeah, that's a pretty freeing mindset to have that. It has helped me a lot with clients and with myself to trust that that's true.